wonderful world of Disney. This week, from the wonderful world of Disney, Snow Bear.
This is the top of the world. The polar ice pack. The Arctic. Where time stands still. Where the sun shines at midnight. Where there's darkness at noon. It's a bleak and lonely place of lingering snow and ice, of frigid waters and barren lands, all seemingly lifeless. But there is life, from delicate flowers on the tundra to the greatest of all living things within the Arctic Circle, the giant polar bear. This big female wasn't alone. She was being watched by her cubs, who were supposed to be keeping quiet and out of sight, while their mother stalked a walrus herd. The sight of the cubs on the skyline had startled the female's prey. A walrus on ice is fair game for a polar bear, but in the water, these huge animals are deadly fighters with their long tusks. She'd have to wait for a walrus to haul out on the ice. One look told her cubs to keep out of sight. The male, Tanook, was the leader. His smaller sister, Paka, always tagged along. It was nap time, but Paka just couldn't get comfortable. Ah, that was better. But now Mother was ready to move on. As usual, Tanook was way ahead of Paka. With her brother gone, the confused Paka didn't know which way to go. She was distracted when her hunting instincts were aroused by a tiny lemming. The mother bear was looking for her missing cub. But suddenly, a huge male polar bear appeared. Solitary males resent cubs and try to kill them. Going back for Paka could mean death for both cubs. The she-bear headed for safer territory, with Tanook hanging on for dear life. The prowling male let them go, scenting easier prey nearby. Instinct told Paca the rogue male was not at all friendly toward cubs. The hiding place she found didn't offer much protection, but fortunately for Paca, there was an inner chamber. The solid ice held firm against the 1,000-pound bulk of Paca's giant attacker. This chance passing of man, the deadliest enemy for all polar bears, had convinced the big male he should look for safer hunting grounds. And it had saved Paca. Afraid to venture out, Paca settled down to wait for her mother. She was a frightened, lonely little cub. The passing Eskimos were a man and his son. The boy, Timko, was nearly 13 years old. His father, Akotak, was an excellent hunter. He'd taken his son on this first hunting trip of the season to teach him the ways of the white wilderness. But Timko just wanted to watch wild creatures so he could carve them in ivory. He was not as interested in learning how to hunt or trap them. In the severe world of the Arctic, Eskimo parents are surprisingly gentle with their young and seldom punish them. Though Akotak encouraged his son's carving, he knew the boy must learn to hunt so he could survive. Akotak hoped a change in duties would help Timko keep his mind on his work. They were nearing the end of their journey, and he didn't want anything else to go wrong. It was later that same day when the Eskimos established their camp on the edge of the snow-packed tundra. Timko was put to work making building blocks for their igloo, which would be built on the circle Akotak scribed in the snow. Whalebone knives were used, since metal blades had soon become coated with ice, making them useless. Working steadily, two Eskimos could construct an igloo in about 45 minutes. But young Timko took time out to do some carving, figuring his father had enough blocks to keep him busy for a while. Akotak managed to keep the work moving without being unpleasant about it. The shell of the igloo was soon completed. Akkotak then added some finishing touches. A window would let in light. A sheet of translucent ice made a fine window pane. As a final refinement, Akkotak carefully placed a snow block so it would reflect even more light inside. And so in less than an hour, the Eskimo boy and his father had built a solid, weatherproof home. This would be their headquarters for the days ahead of hunting, fishing, and trapping. That same day, Timko set out to establish their trap line. He had learned all the Eskimo tricks of disguising a trap. Pieces of strong scented whale blubber were used for bait. Early the next morning, the trap line began to pay off. Akkotak started bringing in their catch of Arctic fox, wolves, and other animals. For nearly 2 days, Paka had been afraid to leave her hiding place. It was finally hunger that drove her out. Paka had only her sensitive nose to guide her, and the instincts of the wilderness born. Those instincts failed to warn her that 2 lean and hungry wolves had picked up her trail. The scent of the lone cub held the promise of an easy kill. In her aimless wanderings, Paka had sensed an appetizing aroma. For the hungry cub, the scent of whale blubber meant only food. There was no warning of the danger hidden beneath. Since the small animal trap had no teeth in the steel jaws, it didn't cut into the cub's heavily furred paw, but it held her fast. There was no way for her to escape the even greater danger that was headed her way. Before moving in for the kill, the wolves wanted to make sure the cub's mother wasn't around. Paka's thick coat gave her some protection, but she was obviously losing her fight for life. Timko had to force himself to finish the task before him. Suddenly, he recalled that the trader who came to their village often wanted cubs to sell to zoos. Alive, this little female might be quite valuable. All the way back to camp, Timko had been wondering if his father would let him keep the cub.
Ano ya?
Koni pipkani aksimagit. Ha. Kano gidlodak sa tiguktin na gota. Pipkakta kaneli.
Akatak was worried. He knew that the growing animal would require much care, eat a great deal of food, and be a problem back in the village.
Sani aksimagit. Tabo nga.
Against his better judgment, Akatak let Timko keep the cub.
Kanchuluk. Ali, kingkang juga.
It was a few days later that the cub got her name, Paka, the mischief maker.
Paka. Wei, kaluk tadu. Ali kata. Wah. Wah, kaluk ali ka. Oh. Yeah. Ariga ami. Kaluk tuloy tayo. Nakuha ba?
As time passed, Timko's regular feeding and gentle ways brought a change in Paka.
Kinerew. Nerew. Kinerew. Ke. Ay. Ke. Neresuksua din ako. Ke.
For Paka, the boy had taken the place of her mother as a source of food and her brother as a companion. For Timko, the cub had become much more than something to be bartered. Paka had become a pet and a friend. It was early one morning several days later when Paka was restless and unhappy. For the first time, she felt neglected. The decision had been made to return to the village. Paka had been fighting her tether for some time. By the time the dogs were brought under control, it was too late to go after the cub. Akutak tried to convince Timko that he was better off without the cub. Having noticed that the cub had become a pet, Akutak knew it would be easier for Timko to part with her now than when the trader arrived in the fall. His father's advice made sense, but Timko would still miss his friend and worry about her surviving on her own. For the tag-along cub, Timko was family. And so started the journey back to the village, where the boy and the cub would become even closer and face many new problems. It was several days later in the village meeting house, the Kashim, that the Eskimos celebrated the return of the hunters. Akutak and his friend Ramuluk performed the kayak dance. Among the village youngsters being entertained by the boy and his cub was Ramuluk's daughter, Ugala, Timko's sweetheart. Timko let Ugala be the first to take over the cub's leash. Because their families were close, the two youngsters had grown up together and enjoyed each other's company. Timko was glad to see that Paka seemed to like Ugala, too. The celebration continued far into the night with traditional Eskimo dances based on their legends of Arctic animals, like this one on the howling, prowling wolf. In the days that followed, Paka learned about life in the village. Timko built a rough shed for her to sleep in at night. In the daytime, he kept her tied up so she wouldn't get into trouble. She ate ravenously and was growing at the rate of over 1 pound a day. To give her exercise and to hunt and fish for her food, Timko took her on daily trips along the coast. Once out of the village, the cub enjoyed her freedom, but never strayed too far from Timko.
Balik na! Okay, never join.
And so the summer days passed, with the boy and the bear spending many happy hours together. All too soon, it was early autumn. The ice pack was growing larger every day. By now, Paka had more than doubled in size. She was large for her age because Timko had fed her so well, probably providing much more food than the cub would have found in the wilds with her mother. Among other things, Timko had taught her to fetch an Eskimo club he used as a throwing stick.
Paka. Paka, walk. Go.
When Timko saw signs of the coming winter, he realized that the trader would soon arrive. His father had been right. It wouldn't be easy to part with his friend. The boy and the cub continued their close association as they waited for the trader to come to the village. They still took their daily trips along the coast. As they started away from the village one cold morning, Timko saw his father working with some of the men and their sons. They were putting a new walrus hide covering on an umiak, the Eskimo longboat. Timko felt guilty because he couldn't join Akutak. The boys were learning an important skill from their fathers, but he had to spend most of his time with the big cub. Ugala and some of the youngsters were playing at the Eskimo high kick game. The object was to kick with both feet at a fur ball suspended from a pole. Eskimo men have been known to kick as high as 7 feet in this strenuous game. Paka was much more interested in something that was going on at the far end of the village. Akutak had been afraid something like this would happen, and he'd warned Timko never to let the cub loose in the village. It was one of the rare occasions when Akutak spoke harshly to his son. For the first time, the cub had gotten into real trouble, and Timko knew it was his fault. Hoping to redeem himself and the bear, Timko tried to find something useful that the two of them could do. He figured out a way to harness Paka's strength and energy.
Hablar, Paka. ¿Qué?
Timko's patience finally paid off. This was the moment Timko had long been dreading. The trader had arrived. Arctic bush pilots can land their planes in the most unlikely places. Trader Jim Johnson could fly with the best of them. The villagers trusted Jim in his business dealings, and they all looked upon him as a friend. He usually had gifts for everyone, from the oldest to the youngest. To honor special visitors, the Eskimos always organized a new Lukatug, the traditional blanket toss. Took her turn, Timko momentarily forgot his problems. The guest of honor received a firm invitation to participate. Timko couldn't forget that the business of trading was about to begin.
I sold lots of these.
Ugala tried her best to console the unhappy Timko. Time was running out for Timko and his cub. The Eskimos enjoyed their one chance a year to examine products from the outside world.
Hi, you operate like this, see? Ammunition up here, get sights. You have the hammer, see? Ammunition, sure. I can get you a box of ammunition, okay.
Business was transacted with whatever words each party knew of the other's language.
Nanoyak, you want to trade the polar bear, huh? Yeah. Hey. Well, he's a good-looking polar bear, all right, but you see, look at all my furs. I got so much to take back. My plane, Adagu, it's a little small, you know. I can't take everything, and some of this here, maybe not this year. Maybe next year you have another one, I'll take it maybe, but that's not too big. Aye. Aye.
Adiga. Doing nang si Mai. Yeah.
When the trading was over, Jim Johnson prepared to leave. Timko still had some business with Jim, and he was anxious to see him before he took off. He hoped to interest the trader in another polar bear, one he had carved in walrus tusk ivory.
Wolverine, okay, that's good. I got some liners next year. What you got here, Timko? Not a bad-looking piece of base you have there, but I don't know about that polar bear, that Nanook. It's a little rough. Maybe next year, Timko. I got lots of ivory. Okay. One more. Precious food supplies for the coming winter were kept in this community storeroom.
A sealskin used as a container held seal oil for cooking.
Something like that. Okay, good. Maybe a few more knives I can get out. Yeah. Okay, we got one more there. One more wolf.
Paka had selected a tasty caribou haunch. To enjoy her prize in private, she headed out of the village. The dogs had drawn attention to what the missing bear had done. The ruined supplies could mean shortages in the village. This was serious trouble. The village council of elders held an emergency meeting to decide Paka's fate.
Nanoya kun sa kupsigalaro kun pinyagsi. Nanoya nga ta sa kupsigalo amase kasi malikapsi mo bakit kiya kanok sa malot kisiksi.
Akotak wanted his son to speak for himself.
Nanoyawa. Ang iklikang avluwa nga.
Timko pleaded that he could keep the bear out of trouble, if only he'd be given another chance.
Katrik kuminek salan. Tokon niya lauf siyo. Avong ati luwa. Avlaktin niya unaya.
The council had to consider the safety of everyone in the village, as well as the protection of their valuable food supplies. As the polar bear grew older, they knew she would be impossible to control. Paka was banished from the village.
If
the bear returned, she was to be shot on sight.
Kanok sa Manila kapsip tayo na pinyag. Outlaw niya sa mga outlaw nila sa kapsip.
Akotak felt this was his family's responsibility. The bear would never return to the village. Timko would have to act quickly to save his friend's life. The boy had a pretty good idea where the bear had gone. Knowing his father was preparing to hunt her down, Timko's first thought was to get the big cub as far away as possible.
Paka, kahit. Tuloy, kayak tokdilo. Rara lang niya. Paka.
Getting Paka to follow the kayak away from the village was no problem, but stopping her from following him back would be. By the time they reached the main body of the pack ice, Timko knew what he must do. Timko paused a moment, realizing he might never see his friend again. He remembered when she was just a little cub and the good times they'd had together. Timko's plan was simple. He knew that all polar bears had highly sensitive hearing and that sharp sounds pained them. To save her, he'd have to shock her into running far, far away from the village. And so they parted, the unhappy Eskimo boy and the frightened, bewildered polar bear. Neither could know, of course, that they would meet again in strange and unusual circumstances.
In next week's conclusion, Chimko decides to go it alone in the frozen wilderness. His struggle for survival is shared with an old friend, and the two are reunited against the dangers of the Arctic. Next week, Snow Bear on The Wonderful World of Disney.